Well, hello there, you wonderful people. Mr. Warren Hayes, and it is time once again for the weekly AEW Dynamite review. We do here on the channel on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes and on your favorite podcast application. Look, per usual, you know the drill, and if not, allow me to inform you in case you're new to the internet, which could be. I'm not going to I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everyone is super experienced on everything that has to do with, being online. I'm not going to pretend. If you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Why don't you? That's the kind of things. These are tiny little small details that you can do, and they end up helping the channel a great deal. Helps in growth, in attention, helps get the word out there, and that's how it works. So if you can do that, that'd be great. And if you subscribe, you'll never miss an AEW Dynamite review of mine ever again, and you'll never miss the Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper, which I record live every Tuesday night. If you're listening to this on as a podcast, well, hey, a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, a 5-star rating on Spotify, those things as well help out a great deal. Help, get up on those charts, those all-encompassing, delicious, yummy charts. You like to chart on those things, and you can go around and start parading and say, I was number 1 in Greece last week. Why Greece? Why not Greece? Greece is a lovely country, birthplace of civilization, and so on and so forth. Or so I've been told. The Parthenon, the Greek gods, that's their tales still pervade to this day. They're omnipresent in all forms of entertainment and storytelling that we still have today. They're the basic building blocks of Western civilization. It's there. So I would not mind to chart like on the Apple Podcast charts for Greece. I would actually see that as a bit of an honor. I'd be like, hey, here I am, charting here like as if I was Zeus or Hermes or Athena, Hephaestus. So on and so forth. I don't know why I'm on a tangent, really. I'm recording this. I could go back and just delete all of this, but no, we're going to keep all of this in. We're going to talk about AEW Dynamite, which is what we do. There's been a lot of meta talk about storylines and people not understanding how things go in AEW, and it's like, well, why is Hangman Page mad at Jon Moxley? That's look. I discussed this quite at length on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show this week, which I of course highly suggest that you go and watch. And I would not. I don't want to go over it and repeat it again because it will take up the majority of this review here, and that's maybe not necessarily what you're here for. But I do wonder why suddenly there's this influx of wrestling pundits, and I'm talking like not Joe Schlo, Schlub. Not Schlub. It's Joe Schmo or Joe Schlub. And I went Schlo, but what I wanted to say is Joe Schlub. We're not talking Joe Schlub podcasters, or people on Twitter who have 100 followers or who have we're talking like the big boys, the big names. And they're all going saying, why is Hangman mad at Jon Moxley? I don't understand. And then it's like, and this baffles me, right? Because, to condense the point that I made in multiple layers on Tuesday, to condense the point here is, a lot of them are saying maybe a recap, a video package recapping why would have done the trick. Whereas, And this fascinates me because many of these people who were calling this out are also people who said, oh, WWE and their video and their incessant video packages, that never end. They complain about that on one end, and then it's like you're not getting them on the other side, and you're like, well, we need video packages. So it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what the train of thought here is. Because we're always talking about, they always seem to be talking about, well, you have to let the viewers understand what's going on for, getting them. Well, there's two angles, right? It's either I did not understand. I don't understand why Adam Page is mad at Jon Moxley. And if you are paid media doing this and you haven't picked up on it, I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to say you're bad at your job, because I think once in a while, a lot of people are we all mess up. We all have bad takes. This happens. But I'm like this is, at the very least, this is a terrible take to have if you've been watching AEW, because I think the majority of fans who watch the show and who are into it absolutely look at this response as that, well, I mean, it's clear why. He was mad at Moxley before Full Gear, then Moxley knocked him the fuck out, and then he comes back from his concussion. Of course, he's still pissed off. And there's people saying, oh yeah, he looks like a tool now. He looks like just a bitter old guy. I mean, it's such basic wrestling storytelling. Anyway, that's one. Again, see, I said I don't want to go too much in depth into it, and here I go. So I'm trying to rein myself in. So that's the first thing. That's the first position that they have. It's like, I didn't understand, and I think that's a terrible admission. But it's also, it could be chalked up to a bad take. So I don't want to. I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious that people who cover and watch pro wrestling, and have been doing it for years, can't wrap their heads around why a wrestler is mad at another wrestler and need a video package to understand it. Like, that to me it baffles my mind. But the second position that some people are taking, some of these are taking, is video packages would help viewers understand. So, like, this is the very definition of creating a problem, right? That's absolutely coming out and saying, I'm creating an issue here for these viewers who, I don't know who they are, but some of them clearly, but I would assume that there are some viewers who don't understand, which is probably true. But you're creating an issue for people that you know nothing about, that you don't know, I don't want to say the CV word, casual viewers. But this is what they're inferring. When I hear arguments saying, well, people would benefit from having packages because it would help them understand. I mean, you're absolutely talking to the mythical casual viewer that everyone seems to understand. And there's a lot of people that I love and respect who do this as well, and who've had some, who think down those lines. And I'm not going to sit here and trash that, because it's opinions and it's fine. I strongly disagree, and I think they're wrong. I think they're completely off track, and they're setting us back. I think this level of argument is I think this argument as to whether video packages, where AEW needs better video packages, and better, we need to recap everything. It's like, this is proof to me that Vince has won the war. Vince has understood. Vince has wormed his way even into people that I know are part of the, who are not as favorable to AEW, people who are to WWE, excuse me. These people who are having this argument, these people are saying the same thing. Well, maybe a recap, so on and so forth. And I'm like, Vince has won. Vince won the wrestling minds in 2022. He's gone, but he's made it. He's done it. It's like wrestling can't go forward without video packages, which is insane. And it's something we've always that has always been a point of criticism in WWE. Not the quality of the video packages, mind you. It's the frequency, it's the length. And for recapping things that you don't necessarily need recapping, there's a lot of folks saying, but it's a television show. And weekly series have, this is what happened, previously on, Beverly Hills 90210. Previously on Tropic Thunder. Previously on Magnum PI. You get the picture. And to use that as a basis to say, well, there's recaps, in other shows. Why couldn't we have that on pro wrestling? Pro wrestling is a TV show. And again, there's something that there's a disconnect here, because then there's a lot pro wrestling. Then people will say, well, pro wrestling is its own thing. It's its own entity, and you can't necessarily see it as a television show in the traditional sense of it, where, look, how this business works. If you're listening to this, you know how things can flip on a dime, and stories are decided, a bit on the fly, and depending on reactions, things get adjusted. So it's not as if you're sitting down and you're writing out a script that you're going to shoot over a 4-week period, and you'll have 4 months of television programming to go with it. That's not how it works in wrestling. It's a live show that happens week to week, and the nature of the business is what it is. We've been battling the concept of sports entertainment for so long, where we said, well, you can't treat wrestling like a regular television show. Vince has tried it for years, decades, to be like, no, we don't do wrestling, we do sports entertainment. It's a television show. They even tried to get onto the, Emmy, to be in consideration for an Emmy award and all that stuff. They want to be seen as a TV show, and yet we've railed at how the quality of the product of WWE has fallen, because it tries to be too much like a TV show, because it's not enough about pro wrestling, it's about sports entertainment. And ultimately, the thing that draws you to it, the wrestling, suffers because it wants to be something it's not. AEW leans completely into being a live show, a live arena pro wrestling show, which is compelling, which is different than what the other guys do. And now we're sitting around and we've got people in the industry, thinkers, influencers, dare I say, pundits, analysts, observers, wink, wink, saying, maybe we need more. Maybe we need recaps. Maybe that, it should be like a TV show. It's a previously. So we're actually calling to go more towards the sports entertainment route, is what we're saying. We want this to shift over to being a television show. Because I can flip this around at the same time and say, well, look, in sports, they don't do this shit. They don't do previously. They don't do it before the start of a football game. They don't recap the previous games of the two teams that we're watching, right? There's a pre-show for that, right? But once you sit down and there's analysts and there's all of that, but when you sit down to actually watch it, they don't start breaking down everything that happened, right? Or they'll mention it in passing, but Warren, it's not sports, it's pro, wrestling is its own thing. Wrestling is pro wrestling. And there's a lot of stuff that should be left up to, proper storytelling without having to lean in too heavily into productions and stuff, production value, extra production value. Look, last night's Dynamite started off with a recap of MJF knocking the fuck out of William Regal, right? And I tweeted it out and was sarcastic. I was like, hey everyone, you got your recap. Is everyone caught up now on this story with MJF and William Regal? Just in case you missed out on a detail or two, like the part where he knocked him the fuck out with brass knuckles last week, just in case. So there, and I think that was sufficient. That's your main angle. That's your main story. Look, if AEW wants to go down that route, and if this is what my peers mean, if this is what they mean by give us a little recap, just to start, that's fine. But not everything needs to be recap. Not everything needs to be recap because not every story is on top. I have not seen anyone so far say a thing about why is Ricky Starks mad at MJF. Why did he get mad at MJF? I didn't see anything about that. So hopefully, I think that's all clear. That was a joke, by the way. But my point still stands. I'm confounded. I'm confounded because look, here, let's keep things well parsed here. Podcasts, analysts who are very, very pro WWE and who watch AEW, you can tell they have an extremely difficult time keeping up because all they've known is WWE, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that because I don't think I make any bones about the fact that AEW Dynamite is my favorite weekly wrestling show, right? I think that's clear. I've mentioned it before, and if you're new here, well, there you go. So I make no bones about it. This is because it's closer, much closer to what I feel a pro wrestling show is than whatever WWE puts on, which is something else, and which is fine. If you enjoy that, that's absolutely okay. But my point being is that the people who are pro WWE oftentimes have trouble wrapping their heads around what's happening on AEW because they're used to hitting the bathroom during entrances or stuff like that, or because WWE just that's the level of production they have. There's stuff that you could just walk away and miss and then come back and not miss a beat. Whereas AEW, well, if you do that, it is at your own risks and peril because you might miss out on something. So I can understand that, they might have a little more difficulty, wrapping their heads around this television show, which doesn't have the same frame of reference as the one that they're used to watching. And that's habit. That's all it is. It's just pure and simple habit that you can break if you want. You don't have to, but if you wanted to, try something new and branch out a little more, you could. But again, you don't have to. So I can understand on their front. But when I see, people who are extremely critical of the sports entertainment aspect of WWE and how it's dragged down the production and how the production of the shows has dragged down the quality of the product overall, that the wrestling is entirely beside the point and so on and so forth. It's baffling to me then to hear these people and say, we need more. We need, more recaps, more promo pack, more video packages, more recaps. We need more of those. This might be a symptom, and this I will absolutely grant. And again, I talked about it on Tuesday. AEW's storytelling has been extremely hit and miss, and a lot of very glaring misses. When they hit hard. But there's a lot of glaring misses that I can concur that at some point it's like, yeah, you know what? The Keith Lee Swerve Scott thing, yeah, I get it. You trip. I can get why someone is like, I don't understand exactly where we're at anymore. Why are we back to these two guys being friends? I completely get it. Now, does a recap package fix that? Or do you improve your storytelling? Which I believe would be the better approach. I think more stuff happening in front of the camera as opposed to telling us what happened previously is more conducive to a compelling product. That's just me. Let's get into the show. I've talked enough about this meta subject. But as a comparison, just as a point of comparison, where I agree that the Keith Lee stuff and the Swerve Keith Lee stuff might not be up to par, where I think, Wardlow's overall booking has been, I think this might end up being in a miss column for Tony Khan, and people I think I think people are justified in these criticisms here because I think I agree with them. But I think turning around and saying, I don't understand why Hangman Page is mad at Jon Moxley, that's just I don't know. It's fucking pro wrestling. This isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't Succession. By God, this isn't even The fucking Wire. It's pro wrestling. We're acting as if this is like this highly multi-layered thing where it's like there's so many layers to this, when in fact, the basic story of any pro wrestling match is two paid fighters get in the ring to get in the hopes of getting a win and getting a bigger payday to eventually be able to challenge for titles and then make a shitload of money as a champion. That's the basic storytelling, basic premise of all of pro wrestling. Angles are they're extras. They're not the basis. The matches are always the focus. An angle is an extra to a match. It's something to make you care more. Not every match needs an angle. Not every match needs 6 months of explanation or 6 weeks or 2 weeks. You can we're throwing Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita into the ring against each other on Friday. I don't need no explanation. That match is going to fucking rule because you should be entertained by the matches you're getting. People got mad at, why are we just throwing Darby Allin into Samoa Joe this week? Why are we doing that? What's the story? What led us to this? It doesn't have to be a fucking story. Samoa Joe is a champion. Darby Allin's like, look, I've been winning matches. I want to defend. And even there, we're putting too much thought into it. Because then people, well, Darby's a former champion. He should be able, again, we're trying to attribute too much. We're trying to put too much thought behind it. Darby Allin and Samoa Joe. Yeah, this match is going to fucking slap. Who cares? It's not as if, are you telling me the other company doesn't just throw matches together? Everything has to have a reason? No? The other guys have, every match they put on has a deep and profound reasoning that you can look back upon. It's pro wrestling. We have to underscore the moments where wrestling elevates itself and feels good. And you're like, Christ, this is great. We have to acknowledge fantastic stories, logical stories that are told, like the Hangman Adam Page one, like MJF and CM Punk, like the whole MJF road to his championship, actually. We have to acknowledge those. But if we start getting hung up on the necessity for stories for the lower mid-card or the mid-card itself, you're like, oh my God, we're never going to, we are going to turn into a recap and video package show. Let's get into last night's Dynamite. Because yes, I'm recording this on Thursday, the day after, which is what I usually do. The day after AEW Dynamite was held at the HEB Center in Cedar Park, Texas, December 12th, 2022. Opened up with the Dynamite Diamond Ring 2022 Battle Royal. Ricky Starks, no big shock here, defeated Brian Cage, Dalton Castle, Dustin Rhodes, Ethan Page, Jack Perry, Kip Sabian, Matt Hardy, Orange Cassidy, Sean Dean, The Butcher, and The Blade to win this one. And so basically next week for the Winter is Coming event on Dynamite, he will be challenging not only for the AEW World title, but for the Dynamite Diamond Ring as well. Look, these battle royals are typically a mess. Like there's no you don't break down action really in a, there's always things that happen. Like, this is the thing. A battle royal should always have events happening and things that at the very least should seed a story moving forward. So there's a few things here. Now, I think we've, with the way that they gave Dustin Rhodes an entrance to this, because not everyone got their entrance, but the way that they gave Dustin his entrance, I think, and the fact that he announced, I think it was on Twitter, straight up, that he announced that that this was probably going to be his last year of active in-ring competition. I think this means that we're starting to, I think this is AEW starting to lay the groundwork for this to be maybe a special year for him, that 2023 is going to be, under the guise of Dustin Rhodes' farewell tour, right? So to a degree, when he came out, it was like, oh, maybe he could win this, but just for a second, it just crossed my mind. Matt Hardy and Ethan Page worked together throughout this match was something that I noticed, albeit Matt Hardy, being a little mad, not exactly being super cooperative, but always ending up cooperating, because I think the story here is that he's protecting Private Party, who is in this mess with him, and he feels like he created this whole mess for Private Party. So a lot of what he's doing is swallowing his pride so that Private Party don't suffer any more than they have, lose any more money. That I think these are things that have been established. Kip Sabian and the Blade eliminate Orange Cassidy early on. Dustin Rhodes hits a destroyer and eliminates Kip Sabian. Then Butcher eliminates Dustin. Dalton Castle's spot in this match, where he keeps getting knocked off the apron and into the boys' arms, gets huge reactions from the crowd. There is going to come a moment where Tony Khan will no longer be able to ignore these reactions that Dalton Castle is getting. He is set apart from the rest in this in the AEW setup, because he does have a sports entertaining kind of feel to him. Extremely charismatic, leans into some spots that are crowd pleasers. So at some point, this is something that he just won't be able to ignore. Jack Perry eliminates Lee Moriarty, but then W. Morrissey interferes and eliminates our Jungle Boy. W. Morrissey, but then you have Excalibur, who's calling him Big Bill Morrissey, and I fucking like that. I like Big Bill Morrissey is a perfect pro wrestling name. I love it so much. Dump the W bullshit. Doesn't roll off the tongue. Who says W without, W? It doesn't. You always have to sort of pause. There's a natural pause that has to be taken. W Morrissey, W. No, it doesn't work. How many letters of the alphabet have 3 syllables in it? It's ridiculous. Big Bill. I like it. I hope that sticks. I hope they dump the W bullshit. Big Bill Morrissey. And then Big Bill Morrissey, he was not in the match, by the way, but he still cooperates in the elimination of Jungle Boy, and he completely destroys him with a choke slam right on the side of the ring. Holy fucking shit. That was a hell of a bump. This leads us to the final 4, where we got Starks, Matt Hardy, Ethan Page, and the captain Shawn Dean, who has a nice little shine here, but he gets eliminated by Ethan Page, who tries to get Matt Hardy to eliminate him, but Matt Hardy is not exactly super cooperative. Starks eliminates Matt Hardy. Afterwards, Ethan Page runs to lawn dart Ricky Starks out of the ring, but they tumble over the top rope. Ricky Starks holds on to it. Page hits the floor. Starks wins the Battle Royal. After the match, and I'm talking after the match, like immediately, like Ricky Starks' music starts when he wins the match, but his victory doesn't even get announced. MJF's music hits real quick and interrupts any form of celebration. And he comes out and he's on the mic and he gets into the ring and he starts to cut it. He cuts a quick promo on Danielson. And here's the thing. At this point, I need to walk you through this because I think it's important, because I think it's crucial how I was experiencing it. I think it's crucial to demonstrate how good of a segment this was. He cuts off Ricky Starks, his music, right? He being MJF, comes out and starts his promo, turning his back on Ricky Starks, his current #1 contender, the guy who just won the Battle Royal, who will be fighting next week, to cut a promo on on Bryan Danielson. He cuts that. And at that point, like I said, at that point I'm like, bruh, all right, this sucks. This is bad. And, you know, because AEW has a rightful reputation of not letting things breathe, you know, not giving a moment for things to sink in, where it's like, okay, we got to move on to this thing. I'm like, they're not even leaving Ricky Starks a chance to shine here. MJF is coming out to destroy him. Wait, MJF is not just coming out to destroy him. He comes out and he cuts a promo on a guy who's not even in the building. So I'm like, okay, at this point, I'm like, whoever produced this stinks, because this is bad. Because this was Starks' moment, and I was like, Starks needs this, and it's all right. But the promo on Danielson is short. He turns his attention quickly to Ricky Starks, saying that people treat him like he's some unheralded god of pro wrestling. But the truth is, compared to MJF, he's the drizzling shits. Or should he say he's a Rudy Poo candy ass, because he's nothing more, because he stole that from the other guy. He's nothing more than a dollar store Dwayne Johnson, and he's going to start calling him the Pebble. And he's dressing Ricky down at this point. He's just dressing him down. And I know a lot of people, oh Lord, almighty Lord, a lot of people, they don't like it when wrestlers weren't involved in the promotion, and they don't like it when they start calling them out and start saying words about wrestlers and other promotions. And it's like, keep their filthy names out of your mouth. You just want to be like them. It's unprofessional. It's sad. It's bush league. It's amateur. You don't want to do that. And I say, I want more of it. And I have been nothing but consistent. I want more of this. This is the chaos. This is the shit that I love. Why would they not address the other company? People in other spheres of pro wrestling. Why is the opposite more logical? Why does that even make sense when wrestling fans are wrestling fans and watch a little bit of everything at the very least and know who's who? I don't give a shit if MJF comes on the microphone and starts talking about Triple H and Nick Khan and Bruce Pritchard. I don't give a shit. Let's go. I want WWE to do it more, actually. And it's not a sign of superior, oh, well, we're classy. No, that's not it. That's not it. It's not a question of WWE is such a class act and so on and so on. No, we know why they don't do it, because they live in a fucking bubble. Because they live in a WWE universe where nothing else exists. And if anything, it's pretentious. It's pretentious. the lore of AEW is the lore of wrestling. So why wouldn't you refer to one of the biggest wrestling stars of all time, currently the biggest box office draw of all time? Well, right up until Black Adam, right? Am I right, fellas? But you know, the biggest movie star in Hollywood. Why wouldn't you refer to him? My God. The opposite doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you call out people from other promotions? I love this. And then MJF says he's going to hop into his new Porsche. He's going to hop into his new Porsche and drive Ricky all the way back to Billy Corgan's NWA so Ricky can wrestle on YouTube where he belongs. And at that point, I was like, oh, Christ, this is rough. Not on Billy Corgan. I couldn't give a shit about Billy Corgan. Again, let's bring the chaos. Let's keep it going. You know, oh, you're so pissed off that he keeps mentioning, you know, WWE people. Well, let's talk about the NWA people. That's fine. Let's fire these shots across the bow. I don't give a fuck. This is great, and he's right because right now. There would be no worse thing to happen for Ricky Starks to have to end up back in NWA right now on Power and having to fight EC3, having to fight fucking, you know, Bubba Ray Dudley. Come on now. He's right, and it's harsh, and I understand the gravitas of this insult. And for those of you who have been sticking around for a long time and remember when I used to do an NWA Power recap show, because yes, I used to do that, and Ricky Starks would come on, I would say Ricky Starks is special. Keep this guy on TV. They'd bring him out. Sure, they made him TV champion towards the end of that of that run of Power. I was like, this guy's special. He's got it all. And I said, I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and listen to my own audio, but I don't really care to do that. But I'm pretty sure at some point I said, look, the NWA is not going to keep him for long. This guy's too good. He's too special unless, you know, they can get on this big level. Ricky Starks is special. He was a standout when he was in NWA. So anyway, back to the dressing down part. Just he's sticking it to Ricky Starks all the way down to the NWA stuff, and I'm like, Christ. MJF just buried the shit out of his competition, right? I'm like, And again, I'm sitting here and I'm in this mood where I'm like, this shit stinks. Because MJF came out to prevent a celebration from Ricky Starks, came out and cut a promo on another dude before cutting this promo here. Complete disrespect, turned his back to him, and now completely destroyed him, completely undressed him. And I'm like, this shit sucks. It sucks because Ricky Starks needed this moment. Ricky Starks starts to walk away and he sort of, you know, gives him the shoulder, bumps into it. I'm like, and I'm thinking he's going up the ramp and this is his response. And I think this shit is terrible. This is bad, but no. Ricky Starks picks up a microphone and cuts an all-time great promo. One of the best promos I have heard all year. In a year of absolutely outstanding promos. Like S tier, God tier promos. This is a standout. The promo of his career. The one that we needed, that not only flipped this entire segment around to the point where, like, I see everything that they did here to get me to the point where Ricky was going to dominate this and make me feel like, he gave me every reason to be mad previously. Now I'm just like fucking thrilled. They worked me. They got me. They got me hook, line, and sinker in my little smart wrestling fan brain. They got me. Absolutely passionate, logical, well-spoken, well thought out, energetic, outstanding promo. Calls MJF Maxi Pad, which got chants in the audience. I hope it sticks. Calls him a fifth-rate Roddy Piper wannabe. Talks about how he gets cheap heat. How much more shtick you got because the low-hanging fruit is running dry. Criticism that a lot of people give to MJF, and I'm like, have you never listened to pro wrestling before? Because the cheap heat is part of MJF's arsenal, but is not the only thing. Because right now, if you want to talk about cheap heat, you just have to tune into what JBL is doing on every Monday night these days. He says, Ricky, every week MJF comes out here smelling like paint thinner and ass. His eczema's so bad, he puts tanner on his eczema. Spray tan, you put tanner on your eczema if you laid down, and it's so bad that if you laid down on an anthill for a week, it looks like you laid down on an anthill for a week. See, I couldn't do what Ricky Starks did. I'm not even going to pretend I could. His clothes don't fit. They're not pressed. His shoes are cheap. And he thinks he's better than Starks, and the crowd is eating this shit up because Ricky Starks is a master. He gets it. He understands how to cut a promo here. And he says that you're the AEW World Champion. That title comes with responsibility. MJF knows nothing about responsibility. And Starks leans hard, giving out examples into the responsibility thing. He says MJF avoids pressure. Starks takes it in. He does meet and greets. He lives with dignity and respect. He talks about living in his car and how he was grinding in South Austin. And next week, he's going to beat him and he's going to take the responsibility off his plate, little boy. MJF kicks him right in the nuts, goes to drill him with a lariat, but Starks ducks it, spears him out of his shoes, literally out of his shoes. Fucking ruled. And I've seen people, of course, going, well, they did that in his hometown. Of course he's going to get a big reaction. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you do that? This is basic fucking booking. What? Use what you have, the easy ways to get the reactions and the reactions you want, more importantly. Use them. It's like the Elite in Chicago 2 weeks ago that people are still bitter about. That was exactly what you needed to do. And now this, it's like, of course, yes, he's in his hometown. Let him get the upper hand on the top heel in the company and let people go nuts about it. Because you're sitting at home, you're listening to Ricky Starks cut just a fiery, charismatic promo, and on top of that, the crowd is going nuts. So you're into it, everyone's into it. Ricky Starks looks like a star. Why would... This is not a crutch. This is not a bad thing. He wouldn't have got this type of reaction in Long Island. No, because you don't book this in Long Island. You know, you book something else. My God. Are we going to sit here and complain and try to pick apart? Oh, well, it worked because, they use this to their advantage. Otherwise, anyway, it's like... I swear people don't watch wrestling. I don't know what they watch. I have no idea what they watch. This was brilliant. Brilliant. And here's the thing, but here's the most crucial thing. Even though it happened in Austin, which is not even Ricky Starks' hometown, it's his adopted hometown, right? This is where he came up in the business. Even though it happened in Austin, and yes, it probably did help the reactions. He would have had a massive reaction no matter where he would have been. You would have done this in Chicago. You would have done this in fucking Buffalo, New York. You would have done this in Connecticut, in Jacksonville, in Ontario, California. You would have got a huge reaction to this nonetheless because this promo was excellent. So even though you were booking the hometown babyface to have a good moment here, this was carried to the heights it was carried because of the talent of a man, because of the talent of Ricky Starks. Undeniable. He calls himself absolute, but undeniable the amount of talent this guy has. World champion is his ceiling. I cannot say this enough. I've been saying this for the longest fucking time. And people are starting to see it. And if the more opportunities like this, and I, you know what? And I'm glad that there's things that when I point them out, I'm glad that I'm glad to be proven wrong on. I'm glad because on Tuesday, when I was talking about stories in AEW, I was talking about Ricky Starks being a miss. I was like, look, we're going to see what happens with the MJF stuff in the next 2 weeks. But right now, Ricky Starks has not been treated like the star and the fan favorite that he is, because Christ, people love the dude. We knew Tony liked him, had confidence in him because of the promo, because of the moments he was booked in on the show. Booked a lot at the top of the hour, at the 9 o'clock hour, which is a critical moment that you want to put in someone there that is going to retain viewers ratings wise. So it's always a critical thing to keep people there. We know Tony likes him, but if anything, this should have put him over the moon. Tony Khan should be like, I got to push this guy to the moon now. I gotta come up with a long-term thing for him because this was excellent. And it really, really was. All-time promo. Great stuff. What a great way to kick off the show. Battle Royal was fine. Don't get me wrong. It's a Battle Royal. It's okay. And we're a far cry from the few first Battle Royals that AEW used to put on, which were complete trash. Like, they were not good. I never look forward to an AEW Battle Royal. Now, they're not so bad. I'm still not, small doses when it comes to Battle Royals, right? But this promo. We get a pre-tape between Darby Allin and Samoa Joe, hyping up their match. Then we get Jon Moxley backstage, where he says I'm starting to like this Adam Page talking with his fists, right? Because there's not enough of that around here. This is not all elite talking coming from the guy who is arguably in the top 10 promos in the company, right? And he cuts one basically every week. Tonight, he says Claudio and Wheeler, the BCC boys, they're going to kick some ass. This weekend, they're going to bring back 100% proof ass-kicking pro wrestling. And he's going to be ringside with the Blackpool Combat Club boys. We're going to talk about that in a second. First, we're going to talk about Samoa Joe defending his AEW TNT title against Darby Allin. Samoa Joe nopes a suicide dive by Darby Allin, and Darby just fucking crashed and burned. Darby in this match was like, it's your classic Darby match, right? Where Darby just eats shit, but now you have Samoa Joe, the beast, the monster, being like, okay, you want to eat shit? I'll make you eat shit, and this is what we got. He swings Darby Allin around into the barricades like it's nothing, just completely trashing him. Joe pulls up the padding on the floor and power slams Darby Allin right on the concrete. It's got me out of my seat. Hell of a spot. Can you imagine being Darby Allin being power slammed by Samoa Joe onto concrete? Nothing of that felt good. Joe just beats the shit out of Darby Allin in this match. Manhattan drop, boot, senton. Darby Allin coffin drops Samoa Joe to the floor to give him some respite. Gets back in the ring, flipping stunner and a code red. He goes for the coffin drop again, but Samoa Joe catches him into a Coquina clutch. Darby passes out. Joe retains. After the match, Samoa Joe continues to beat the shit out of Darby, but the thing is that Darby's like, is that all you got? So look, you're Samoa Joe. You're fucking Samoa Joe. And a guy comes up and he's like, is that all you got? What are you going to do? You're going to brush him off and you're like, nah, we're good. No, you're going to be like, okay, I like doing this. This is your funeral, pal. Continues beating him up, him being Darby. And does a muscle buster onto the skateboard, trucks up. He just dumps him right on the wheels. Wardlow eventually runs in for the save. This is This is the Samoa Joe that a lot of us remember before the injury started piling on and so on and so forth, in the sense that this is the guy who comes in and just dominates a match and beats the shit out of people. We'll never get Ring of Honor Samoa Joe again, we'll never have him again because of the injuries, because his body's beat up. He did so much insane shit. We'll never get to those levels again. But this was a fantastic reminder of why Samoa Joe is a terror, and why people get excited when he comes out and is like, oh, someone's gonna get murdered tonight. This is what this match was for. It wasn't a squash match, and it was against an established star, where Samoa Joe's like, I liked it. Did nothing to set up his match at Final Battle this weekend against Rock Hard Juice Robinson. We all know how that's going to turn out. If you want my full Final Battle thoughts, they're on the podcast. I'm not getting into that now. Backstage, Orange Cassidy is being interviewed with Kip Sabian. Tony Schiavone is mediating, and Kip wants an All-Atlantic Championship match, but he's let me say that again. Orange Cassidy says, "Look, Kip, all you have to do is ask if you want an All-Atlantic title match, Kip begs off. He goes, "No, I got hurt in this match. What are you talking about? You want me when I'm at my weakest? What are you talking about?" Orange's like, "Well, get an opponent then." And then Kip goes, he goes like this, and he walks away, twirling like his mustache. And he walks away. Everyone sort of went, Miro! Right? It makes sense. It makes sense because of their past affiliation, and Miro apparently these days has nothing to do with it because creative has nothing for them. That will be a topic on the Mr. Warren Hayes show as we get there. So he's like, it makes sense for Miro to be the guy. I've seen the spoilers. This is a spoiler-free review. We're not spoiling Rampage here at all. We're not going to talk about it. All I will say, though, is in the Discord when this happened, I called it. When I saw this segment, I called who the replacement was. I was shocked because I was kind of joking. So no, it's not Miro if you're paying attention. But that's all I'll say for now. Join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, by the way. Blackpool Combat Club duo of Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta defeated the Jericho Appreciation Society pairing of Daniel Garcia and Jake Hager. Yuta has to contend with Hager until Daniel Garcia comes in, and then they have a good little short segment, sort of to wet our whistle for the pure title match at Final Battle this weekend. Claudio and Hager have some grappling. Yuta cleans house on the JAS until Sammy Guevara, who is at ringside, distracts, and Yuta becomes a babyface in peril. Jake Hager hits a Vader bomb, a superplex by Wheeler Yuta. Daniel Garcia wears Wheeler down until Wheeler hits a German suplex and gets the hot tag to Claudio, who goes for an uppercut party, attempts a super Hurricane Rana on Jake Hager with short of flubs. This highly improved Jake Hager that everyone keeps telling me about. Big swing on Jake Hager. Follows. Sammy Guevara interrupts Claudio Castagnoli, but Hager blasts him. Double submissions by the JAS. The BCC boys fight out. Claudio wins with an uppercut. How about that? Fun little match. I enjoyed it. Nothing to write home about, but a good little showing again by the BCC, basically stretching their muscles, stretching their talents, putting on display their talents, showcasing their talents. Post-match, Tony Schiavone gets into the ring and he says, look, fellas, 2 weeks ago I recorded something with my good friend William Regal, and it's something that I should show you right now. And we have a backstage segment because look, they couldn't do something. The logic behind saying, "Oh, we recorded this 2 weeks ago," is because William Regal got injured, got injured last week, and they're kayfabing it on TV, right? Which I understand, but is also really funny because most AEW fans are connected to what's going on online. They know William Regal's heading back. It's fine that they're kayfabing it. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's curious, but they're kayfabing the fact that William Regal is still injured. So this interview, which was recorded 2 weeks ago, will help clear up some motivations. This is what the video is for. Basically, William Regal saying that he Obi-Wan'd himself. He sacrificed himself for the good of the BCC so that the boys could continue doing what they do best without, any further distractions. He felt like he didn't need to be there anymore, that these guys were great. And, he just wanted to teach everyone a lesson. And look, honestly, I love William Regal, and God bless. And I've talked more than enough about Regal over the past 10 days or so. And my point still stands. If he is going to be happy hanging out with his son in NXT, like Tony Khan said, that was his thing. He wanted to spend his final few years, working closely with his family, which is great. Having an office job where he doesn't need to travel, which is fine as well. And Tony Khan was like, "Yeah, I'll grant you your release. It's not a big deal. It's all right. It's fine. It's completely fine." So classy move on the part of Tony Khan to do that. So, if that's what William Regal wants and he's going to be happy, all the more power to him. And I hope that it works out wonderfully for him and that he'll be happy in his new role in WWE. Stinks because he's not going to be on TV I ever watch anymore, but nonetheless, I'm still happy for him. Very classy move by everyone all around. And again, I've seen people, well, why did he do it to William Regal and not to Andrade? Here's the thing. And if you're asking this question, then the all-out brawl hasn't taught you a thing, right? It has absolutely not taught you anything about preferential treatment in wrestling and how it is a real thing, and that if you are a star or someone who is highly respected, you will get preferential treatment. So William Regal, just like, CM, look, the whole thing with CM Punk and whatever, it's like, that's preferential treatment. Trust me. And that's fine because he's the draw. What are you going to do? That's fine. William Regal, the body of his work speaks for itself. And he is a man who is highly respected. He's trained so many people. He's had hands, if not trained, he's had hands in the development of so many people that everyone seems to love the guy, gravitates towards him. He's a respected individual, well-loved, beloved in the wrestling world. So what is Tony Khan going to do? He's going to be like, "Now sit your ass down, William Regal. You're working for me." Is that what he's going to do? When the guy just wants to go off and... Is that what he's going to do? No. The opposite is a disaster. What are we talking about? So basically, so if he's going to be off, good for him. And again, I talked about it so much on the podcast this week. You can go listen to all of that again. Subscribe. But, the motivations... I love William Regal. Yeah, okay, now I remember where I was going with this. I love William Regal tons, but this promo was classic, stream of consciousness Regal, which is something that I do. I actually relate, where you start talking about a thing and you're skewing right and left and you're trying to make everything make sense and you're like, well, nope, Warren, you're fucking up now. this was it. Like, this is a thing where Regal is like, I'm gonna say this and that. He got his bullet points, and then he let the human take over as opposed to being a performer, right? Which is commendable, but also created a bit of a confusing segment because it's not clear why he ended up really helping MJF. I understood what he said, but it ended up creating more questions for myself. It's not really clear why he did what he did with the BCC and Jon Moxley. And he did say he was surplus to the base 3 guys of the BCC who could mold Wheeler into one of them. That's, I'm like, okay. And that he's BCC for life. He had his jumper on or whatever. So if anything, while I feel it was a tad unnecessary as a segment goes, like it's, and overdrawn as well, like we didn't need this, really. It's done something that hasn't done for the BCC in a short time, which I think ties into some stories that they're telling. Stories. A company that has no stories. It helped unite the BCC. Of course, Danielson wasn't there, but Danielson's always the outlier, right? Never forget, Danielson always comes out from the heel tunnel. Moxley comes out from the audience because he's the man of the people, and Wheeler, Claudio out of the babyface tunnel. Danielson always comes out on the heel. But over the past few weeks, we've had questions like what's been going on with the BCC, and even before the Full Gear stuff. What's going on? Wheeler and Danielson aren't getting along, and Claudio is trying to step in and keep the peace. Mox seems, he's the champion. He's preoccupied with his own bullshit, and everything felt in tatters. Everything felt like it was a little out of control. Now you see all 3 guys in the ring listening to this pre-tape, and they all feel united. They're all united. They all do the forearm bumps, and everyone. You feel like there's that they're tight again. So if anything, I think that served that purpose. I could be wrong, but it does feel like it helped bring the boys back together, kind of thing. Make sure that they're all on the same wavelength one more time. But otherwise, like, this was it was confusing and was completely unnecessary. Like, it was completely unnecessary. I think it was, don't get me wrong, completely unnecessary in its composition, not in the action itself. What Regal brought up was, it just ended up muddying the waters more than anything else. I've seen comparisons with, the Poochie meme from the Simpsons, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not entirely off base. But basically what they were trying to get across was like, it's the Obi-Wan effect. I sacrifice myself so that you guys can grow, kind of thing. It's, Dumbledore. It's whatever analogy you want to bring in here. That is the thing. That's what he's doing. But it just muddied things up a little more. The composition wasn't great, but a proper goodbye from William Regal to the AEW audience, essentially, I think that's pretty cool. I think it could have been done better, but I still think it's pretty cool. Not a lot of talent in pro wrestling have that opportunity to say thank you, good night to an audience before moving on to something else. Not a lot of people have that opportunity. This is still a remarkable event in and about itself. Could have been done better, but it's still remarkable. But it could have been done better. We get a vignette for the House of Black, which was really cool. I like it. As long as they don't lean into actual, metaphysical, teleportation bullshit and winking dolls and all that bullshit, I'm okay with with darker segments and, invoking pagan rites and all that shit. That's fine. But as long as they don't become like magicians in the ring, I'm completely okay with this. I enjoy, it's a different aesthetic. I like it. And they're basically saying in this segment, we're going to war with everyone. And again, I talked about this on the podcast this week, but this is what you have to do. And don't fuck it up this time, Tony. Do it and let them run roughshod. And then when they're done running roughshod as a trios, if I'm Tony Khan and I'm running the House of Black as a trios in the division, I'm using that opportunity at the same time to elevate Aleister Black into main event contention. We get Tony Schiavone do his sit-down interview, requested sit-down interview by Jamie Hayter that was filmed earlier. She talks, basic champion stuff, but she, on Friday on Rampage, Hikaru Shida is going to be defending her Wave title against the Bunny. And she says whoever wins out of that title will get to wrestle for her title because she's a fighting champion. So Shida and Jamie Hayter, fuck yeah, any day of the week. We get a 6-women tag match. The Baddies, Jade Cargill and the Baddies, Leila Gray, Red Velvet, defeated the trio of Kiera, Hogan, Madison, Rayne, and Skye Blue. So they're moving into a feud with Kiera, Hogan, and Jade Cargill. This clearly is the thing. There's some pretty good back and forth between Skye Blue and Red Velvet, who I like Red Velvet a lot, and she is. We need to remember how important she was to this division in a while where they were trying to get women over, including Jade, who was the person that they would always go to help get someone over, to do the job, to make someone new, to make their, the person that they're pushing look good. And it's Red Velvet. She would always be that person. Red's work admittedly is sometimes hit and miss, more hits than misses, if we're being honest. I like her a lot, and she feels even more confident. I think this baddie's role, or at least being, a heel at the very least, looks good on her. It works. She feels confident. Everything was connecting. Double teamed by Madison, Rayne, and Skye Blue as well, because they're, being paired as a tag team. They're being presented as a tag team, I should say. Kiera Hogan gets the hot tag, but gets slammed by Jade Cargill. She tags back out to Madison Rayne, who eats the Jaded for the win. What I find odd in this match here, look, you guys, gals, non-binary pals, know that I appreciate these trios, multi-person matches to set up stories as opposed to everyone cutting promos. I think it's paid dividends for a lot of women in the women's division at the same time. So clearly, TK is leaning into this a little more and said, well, Jade and the Baddies versus, your next opponents, and we'll seed more stuff here, right? More stories. But the fact that Kiera Hogan is the one who's going to get the feud with Jade barely had any offense in this match here. And when things started to go wrong, she tagged out. I don't know if that's something we should read into and be like, story, or if it's just bad production, because Madison Rayne ate the pin here. Of course, you don't want Kiera Hogan to do this, but Skye Blue did most of the heavy lifting in this match. This was a Skye Blue match. So I kind of feel like this is the thing. It's like, should we be reading into the fact that Kiera and Jade maybe aren't really done with each other, like that they're still friends? Or was this a poorly produced match? I would like to think that this was a poorly produced match, because the opposite story of Jade firing Kiera out of nowhere, then Jade last week taking shots at Kiera, and then Kiera coming in and then still being affiliated. Like, what's the payoff? Why are they trying to dupe us? Who are they trying to dupe by having Kiera be a babyface, a pretend babyface who ultimately is still in cahoots with Jade? Like, there's no one, like, she's not trying to trick anyone. Skye Blue maybe, but if so, it's not great storytelling. We get a backstage segment where Tony Schiavone is interviewing Saraya. Britt Baker comes in. This all sets up a match. At the January 11 Dynamite in Los Angeles, with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Saraya and a partner of her choosing in Los Angeles. In January. Now, we are not going to run rampant on speculation here today, but if this is not an indication that at the very least AEW is going to lean into Sasha Banks speculation, I don't know what to tell you. I am not saying that this is Sasha Banks who's going to show up on AEW, but these folks know what they're doing. Why would they be setting up this match a month ahead of time? A full, complete lunar cycle. If they did not have something big in the works. We'll see as the weeks progress how much emphasis they put on this match and the mystery partner. But, like I said, at the very least, they are leaning into the what is Sasha Banks' next move speculation. At the very fucking least, that's what they're doing. Best case scenario, they have Sasha waiting in the wings, waiting for her contract to be up to sign the new contract and come in. At the very least. I am not saying that this is it. I'm not saying. But, you know, it's fine to assume that they have something a big surprise, because it could be Thunder Rosa coming back too, for all we know, which would be, you know, fantastic as well. Don't get me wrong, but they know what they're doing here. And finally, main event time AEW World Tag Team title match where the Acclaimed champions defeated FTR and retained their titles. I enjoyed this match. I thought this was very good. Dax and Anthony Bowens trade some big chops. Both teams slug it out. Scissor me timbers by the Acclaimed. Max avoids a sharpshooter, which then allows the Acclaimed to lock in stereo sharpshooters, and they were dressed in pink, not black and pink. That would have been a good little nudge. FTR slingshot Max Caster against the ring frame on the floor, and that allows them to get on top of things. Look, FTR had to play heel more than baby. Like, they weren't full on heels, but they had to play dirty here because the Acclaimed are just so over. They couldn't have been a battle where it's like, well, you know, smart move by FTR. Whoever decided to do this, that was the way to go. Cash had a heat segment on Max Caster. Bowens gets the hot tag, hits a famouser on Cash. Jab, kick, running knee strike on Dax. Dax avoids another famouser attempt by Bowens, lands Germans on him, who roll, but Anthony Bowens rolls him into an O'Connor roll on the third German attempt. FTR hit a spike pile driver. Then we get into a sequence where both teams are just trying to land a big rig on each other. Fantastic stuff, and the crowd was really fucking into it. FTR land one, cover, and Bowens saves the match at the very last second for the Acclaimed. Crowd was super into it. The Powerplex is avoided. Anthony Bowens lands the arrival. Cash avoids the mic drop. Gory bomb by Cash, who then wallops Max Caster, hits a power bomb, goes for the jackknife cover, but Caster rolls through for the win and the retention. And after the match, the good sports that they are, FTR, scissor the Acclaim. Now, I have no issues. I love the Acclaimed. Let me say that again. I like the Acclaimed a lot. Like I said, their shtick ain't for me, but I like the Acclaimed a lot. Anthony Bowens was a complete MVP in this match. And I have been saying this since this guy started popping up on AEW programming. I've been telling you guys this kid is special. And he's the worker guy in this duo. And the thing is that since they've won this championship, Bowens has gone even further than just being the workhorse of the duo. He's also proven to be a terribly charismatic pro wrestler on top of that. A hell of a talker. Something that you were like, holy shit. Like, this guy is eventually going to outshine Max Caster. This is unequivocal. Anthony Bowens has been my guy in the Acclaim for a while. I've been telling you guys, this dude's special. He's great. This team that they have going is fantastic. But we are going to reach a point, and probably sooner than we believe, that Anthony Bowens is just going to cast a shadow on Max Caster. This team is bound for a heel split. Max Caster going heel, and absolutely 100%. Bowens is so fucking likable. He's got all the tools on top of being so fucking likable. I enjoyed it. And you know, and the other thing is that, well, if they're winning, if FTR are winning all the titles, how come they can't get the AEW ones? Well, that's the story they're telling. AEW titles are just, they've been trying to regain them, get a second reign, and they've just always been slightly out of reach. Why wouldn't FTR put the Acclaimed over here? This is a big win for the Acclaimed. This is one that the Acclaimed can hang their hat on and be like, we hung with FTR. They put us over. This is a testament of confidence here. Because if the only tag teams they fight are the Ass Boys and fucking Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, okay, well they're not fighting any real competition. This was some real fucking competition right here. This is a team that is regarded as being the real deal. And they won. So, boost. That is good for them. But the story for FTR is that the AEW titles, the ones that they want the most, right? Because they're employed by, the ones that they covet the most, just always out of reach. They can almost taste it. They fucked up. They fucked up again. Next time. It's always the next time. And the day that FTR does win the titles, the time that they get into a program for the AEW tag team titles is going to be a big deal. And they're going to lean into it. They're going to lean into the fact that, we need to prove this to ourselves. We lost all of our other titles, kind of thing. They're probably going to drop the titles at Ring of Honor this weekend. They're probably going to drop the titles at Wrestle Kingdom. These are the ones that are missing. It's a great story, long term. I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of this weekend, the Ass Boys appear on the Tron, and they say they got FTR some presents, and they have a card from the Briscoe brothers, who challenged them to a match at Final Battle this weekend, a double dog collar match. This is probably the match that this fucking card this weekend, Final Battle, needed. The Briscoes and FTR 3 with dog collars. This is going to rule. I think only true sourpusses don't want FTR and the Briscoes again. I really do. Why were you both times were entertaining as hell, like good old fashioned entertainment through a wrestling match. Why would you not want more of that? Do it. And I think, this is going to be the third encounter between the both of them. I think the Briscoes are going to pick it up. I think the Briscoes are going to win the titles. If, Tony Khan said after the, in the media call this week, he said, well, after the show, we're going to have some announcements regarding Ring of Honor moving forward. So, well, time to get some titles off of AEW people and on to Ring of Honor people, right? Like the Briscoes. This is going to rule. Is it enough? Is this going to convince you to buy Final Battle this weekend? I mean, you can buy a pay-per-view on the strength of one match. That's why we have world champions. That's why we have builds, Absolutely. No test, wouldn't be anything wrong with that. That match is absolutely something that this pay-per-view, that this final battle needed, because it is a cold ass card. I talked about it on the podcast again. Go check it out. But this is a cold as ice card. I'll be watching it. I'm going to review it for the podcast on Tuesday. But I'm not going to lie. My interest has come up a little, significantly actually, to watch the show, because we're getting Briscoe's FTR again. Why would anyone be mad at this? Well, again, oh my God. If you have the matches, use them. Anyway, good Dynamite. I thought this was a very good Dynamite, actually. Significant Dynamite. They gave us a promo. Forgot to mention this. That gave us a promo for a title match next week where the outcome is clear, where Ricky Starks is not going to win the title, but which has given us the motivation, the fire to make us believe he's going to happen. And when he does lose, we're going to be so fucking disappointed. And this is just going to add into MJF's heelness. Like, this is perfect. Perfect from an angle booking style, from an angle perspective, from a booking perspective. I'm convinced people are going to buy a ticket based off of that promo. Even though we know he's not going to win, it wouldn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. He's not going to win, Ricky Starks. But sometimes in pro wrestling, it's not about the destination, really. Sometimes it's about the journey. The journey includes the match, the destination being the result. But I'm excited to watch this now, which wasn't the case. This is going to be really good. But this was a very good Dynamite. I enjoyed it a great deal. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, right? Hope you enjoyed this this Dynamite review that that I've decided to end here. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow on your podcast applications, Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating, reviews, and ratings over on Spotify. Whatever you can do to show some love, I appreciate it. I'll be back on Tuesday for another Mr. Warren Hayes show, and I'll see you next time.